Hello and welcome to the Sacred Pearl podcast with myself, Reverend Arlene, from Reverend Arlene Codorniz Ministry. So I had posted or uploaded the very first kind of episode with a mini introduction, and I had stated that, my intention was to bring forward this podcast and to focus on A Course of Miracles, as well as a few other things. But what's interesting is, as always, when you work with your divine consciousness, they are the ones that, drive the bus. So I allow their guidance to direct me and lead me on what is needed to be presented at the time. So I did want to start with A Course in Miracles, but I keep being told and pushed to maybe start with something a little bit different. And then, who knows, maybe in January, maybe I might start the lessons, and this way we can actually start the year. But again, I can't say anything with certainty because everything is fluid and constantly changing. So what I was guided to bring forward today for the first true official episode, so this would be episode 1, is more about my journey. And as always, for those who do know me and have followed my YouTube page and my Instagram page, know that transparency is very important to me. And basically, what you see is what you get. This is me. There's nothing too fancy. I'm not big on truly getting all the, fanciness with creating and editing videos or anything like that. It's basically, this is as raw as it gets, and this is me. So, and also understanding that as much as I may have information to share and guidance to share, that everything I receive is through God, and that is what I bring forward, and understanding that there's times that I haven't truly experienced it, but I can only share the information that's given. Well, that just gave me goosebumps. And then, but there is a lot that I have shared and that I have experienced that I will bring forward, and that I will never bring across information, saying like I know it all and I've experienced it all, and and that what I'm sharing is what you should do or supposed to do, right? Like, no, I can only share what I've been given from my level of understanding. And then of course it's always up to you, the listener, to the viewer, to use their own discernment, do their own research, sit with themselves, and ask their divine being, their divine self as well, if this information resonates with you, and then use it in any way you need to help support you along your journey. So, and that, that again, I would never sit here and be like, I have it all together and I have all the answers. Like, no, I am single mom. I'm raising 2 boys, young men now. We've gone through a big journey with me, with depression, anxiety, other physical ailments. And then also with my boys who are on the autism spectrum, along with, mild intellectual disability, communication disability, their own anxieties, all these different things. And then, I have a mom who's not well, and, I assist her. So it's like, I would never sit here and be like, oh yeah, got all my shit together. Like, look at me, I'm all high and mighty, or I'm better than anybody. Never. That is never my intention. I trust that is never the way that it will come forward. I can only, like I said, I can only share my level of understanding, my level of what truth is, and share that. And it's either going to resonate or it's not, or you may realize that right now you might not quite understand it, but as time evolves and you evolve and grow, it might start to make sense to you, right? And that's happened with me too, where there's been, people I've listened to, other podcasts, other mentors and teachers, where, there was a time the information didn't make sense and now it does, or that information no longer resonates with me. And that's okay too, right? I don't want you to be stuck in anything or feeling that there's only one way, right? As I said, as you evolve and grow, all these things change, and that's okay. And every day you are allowed to wake up from, you're allowed to wake up and be a different person than you were yesterday or 5 minutes ago. So that is something that I wanted to share as well as this podcast moves forward. So what kept coming to me was, so I had an interesting experience just a few days ago, and surrounding this ministry of mine and my other services, holistic services I provide, with energy medicine and and even doing intuitive readings and transformational healing and all that stuff, right? But as when I became a reverend, that was another activation for me into stepping in more into my innate being, my divine blueprint. And I'm still learning and figuring it all out, right? And like I said before at the very beginning, allowing my higher self team and God to come forward and support me and lead me and guide me, and to have that faith and trust in the process, whether the human me can understand it or not, is comfortable with it or not, and speaking in public like this, speaking on a forum like this, is very uncomfortable for me. Uh, it hasn't been something I've been comfortable with. And I was actually sharing with a friend the other day about how, it's interesting that my life constantly leads me or puts me in these places where I need to be kind of not center stage, but kind of a voice, from growing up, eventually my, elementary school realizing I could sing and play guitar, and then them using me for different performances or different things happening at the school. And here I am being this, voice again. Or, when I became a Zumba instructor at one time, again, being in front of the class, presenting myself. And then as my business started to change and grow too, and what I wanted to present, offering classes, being an instructor for other things, again, I needed to be this voice. I needed to be the person at the front offering this information. And it still doesn't feel comfortable, or I still struggle to flow with it. But at the same time, I'm called to it, and that feeling is so much stronger than the uncomfortable and the fear. So I sit and I trust, and I'm just like, okay, here we go. And hopefully it resonates. And if it doesn't, it's not about me. It's just about so I need to kind of accept that as well. And I take a lot of responsibility in everything that I present. I do believe that there is this cosmic law that needs to be respected and upholded. And, there is a responsibility in being a person of a voice in this type of community. And, I do take it very, I take a lot of responsibility with that. And I feel like it needs to be honored and respected. So I don't just share things just, because that's what's, being, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for, what's popular right now or whatever, right? Like this is my life. This is all I know. This is what's been me for so long, is being in this type of work, being in this type of reality and consciousness. And I continue to grow and change and evolve and develop and learn new things all the time, and needing to be comfortable too with the fact that, hey, maybe something I thought and I followed once is not what I follow now. And that's a big thing, right? Because that's constantly changing, and I'm constantly giving you information and understanding how, the dots fit and make this grander picture. So with that being said, back to what had happened to me recently. And I was, I'm constantly having conversations with God, and, and even talking to Jesus and other, ascended masters and beings too, even though I know that there's a piece of it where that they are just, or I'm just a fractal of them and they are a fractal of me, because we are mirrors of everything, right? Everything is us and we are everything. But yet at the same time, there is this level of comfort of feeling like you can talk to something grander than you, right? So, or that has a lot more knowledge than you do at this time, which is true, because me as a human, I'm still going to be very limited. And as much as I can connect to a higher seat of consciousness, my human still at this time struggles with it to fully grasp it and understand it. And the ego wants to control everything and, try to make sense of it, where sometimes, and I'm learning a lot of times too, to just surrender to that, you know what, I'm not going to understand it, but I just need to feel what I'm feeling and allow the information to process and integrate, so that I can, from the human perspective, understand and quiet my ego, so that it doesn't constantly need to like step in and, have an opinion. So I've been talking to God, and, about this ministry, and, and now that I've completed the next, steps to be able to officiate weddings here in Ontario legally, with that now becomes, I guess, more responsibility of how I need to present things and the information that I need to give to the governing body that governs us, which is for me, it's the Canadian International Metaphysical Ministry, who I'm a member of. So they require certain, papers and everything that shows what my ministry is sharing with the community, and what kind of services I'm providing and all that stuff, right? So I had kind of given like an inventory of what I'm doing, which to me is more important than the wedding part. As much as I think that's going to be fun and I'm excited to see where this takes me, and those aspects of a ministry, right? Like doing weddings and, being there to, facilitate funerals and baby blessings and home blessings and, stuff like that. But I feel that it's so important for me to continue a part of what I'm doing through my business, of the holistic part, which is supporting individuals, supporting communities, connecting to bring in wellness, self-care, helping people to awaken to their true innate inner healer that they are, and, being there as a support system and holding space for so many who are struggling right now. And that is truly important to me. And, so I've had visions off and on for a while now about, kind of, I guess, where God is leading me in this ministry. And it's been difficult to absorb that, because to me, still as this just like little human, I'm like, that just seems so grand for someone like me. Like, why me, right? Like, I'm nothing special, right? But yet they're showing me this platform of me being this voice for so many and just sharing information, sharing stories, you know, being compassionate and loving. And oh, it's again, here I go getting emotional because it sits and it resonates so deep within me. And it's just, like I said, it's just that grand feeling. And again, not that I'm better or more wise or anything, but maybe there's something in me that I project out that connects with others. And that is, I feel like a beautiful feeling. And so they kept showing me things where almost like Jesus, right? Where, you know, how Jesus was that same way, where he just went out and just spoke and shared this vision of like what we call now like a Christ consciousness, right? But of course, that the human me is just like, how am I going to do that? I'm this little like nobody in this like, you know, small city, you know, where okay, maybe now we're getting closer to like 100,000 people, but still, like I'm very restricted with my life in a way, right? Like to me, I see that, you know, for me, it's I'm still so small, right? And my life is still very much wrapped around my sons and what they need and helping support my mom, and then, you know, doing what I can to support the community and offering like classes and in person and online and doing this hands-on work. So, you know, I kind of just every once in a while this will come in, and it was starting to come in strong again. But again, the human me was just like, oh, I can't. Like I struggle to see me being that voice. And so here I was at this little mall on Monday with my sons, and you know, they wanted to check out different things. At one point, you know, one son was somewhere else, but we didn't know where in the mall that was. And so we decided, me and my other son, we decided, okay, let's like split up and see if we can find him and like text each other, you know, so we can know where, you know, where that person is and where it's located. But then I didn't get very far in my journey. And I'm still kind of maybe old school in that way of, you know, I think it's important that when you're out and about, you're smiling at people, you're saying good morning, good afternoon. And that's what I did. And I looked and I was smiling and I looked at this gentleman, and he looked at me, and I just said good morning and I smiled, and that's it. And then we both kind of stopped and we took this double take. And there's just, you know, he's an elderly man. And then we started talking, and he says he's a pastor. And I only found out that his name is Pastor Harvey, and I didn't get a chance to find out anything else more, because I would love to see if I can learn more about him, because he was such a fascinating pastor. And I was like, oh, and I'm a reverend, right? And that was different for me because I still struggle with that title, I guess, in a way, right? Of just like, oh, a reverend, right? Like it just still blows my mind. So we started talking, and he's telling me his life and how he's grown his ministry. And, you know, and it was just amazing because he's telling me how, you know, he just was listening to God too. And God was directing him in dreams, and when he was awake too, you know, go to these different places and just show up there. And that who you're meant to meet, you're going to meet, and you're going to share stories with them. Sorry, my neighbor's dogs are barking. I don't know if you can hear that. It's funny, a beautiful day here, and so I have the windows open. So yeah, and you know, it was just amazing listening to his stories. And yes, like, you know, he was a pastor, and you know, I'm sure he has his own sort of beliefs and stuff like that. But we both felt that we could both connect, even though we knew maybe we weren't gonna have the exact same beliefs or whatever, or follow the same type of religion and stuff. But we knew we could sense in each other that we had a respect, right? We respected each other's views, and we were both open to just listening, right? And I thought that was beautiful because he said that was one of the things he said, because I just knew that you would be open to at least listening. You're very open minded. I'm like, yes, right? So, and that is very true with me. I'm like, I consider myself, I love the fact that I'm a metaphysical minister, because to me, that means that I am open to being so eclectic, right? Like I've said, I was raised Roman Catholic, but there's still so many things that I gravitate to. There's things from the Catholic religion that I respect and I think is beautiful. And then there's things in the Christian religion that I believe is beautiful, and Buddhism, and paganism, Druidism. There's so much out there that I love to learn about. I just love to learn. Like, that's just my thing. I love to learn and talk to people. I love to observe people and just listen. Like, I've had how many times Jehovah's Witnesses come to my door, and I, you know, I'm open to listening. I love listening. I could talk about Jesus all the time. Like, I love talking about Jesus. I think Jesus is amazing, right? So, uh, but I have to understand too that sometimes some people are wanting to talk to me because they want to convert me, but that's not my goal. I'm not here to convert anyone. I just love talking about these different things and just how amazing and beautiful, and there's so much sacredness to so many different people. So then my sons finally found me, and he talked to my sons for a couple of minutes, and all I was able to get was that his name was Pastor Harvey. And I was just like, oh, he told me how he wrote 4 books, and he's grown his ministry, and he's been all over Ontario, like all over Canada and the States, and that now he's going to the UK, and that he's hoping to also travel to Europe soon and spread his ministry there. And I was just like, I wish I got a last name, because it would have been amazing to try to find more about him. I've been trying to go down the Google rabbit hole and see what I can find, but haven't been able to find that Pastor Harvey yet. So, but I'm sure if I am meant to find him again, we will connect again. But what was amazing was he sharing this story about how just being at the right place at the right time, connecting to people, that's how his ministry grew. And, and at times he had that same thing happen to him, where all of a sudden he's on this mountaintop talking to tons of people like Jesus did on the mount, right? And it was just like, how beautiful. Like, I don't know, like, to me it's still, I don't know how to explain it. Like, I know nothing is random, and I know nothing is just a coincidence, but I'm still flabbergasted by it all. I'm just like, wow, what an amazing interaction, and how thankful I am that I had that opportunity to talk to him, and just, and in some ways, it's a confirmation for me that anything is possible, right? And it's amazing to see where this ministry is going to go and where this podcast is going to go, right? And I feel like this podcast is an opportunity for me to build that and share where I'm at and what I've learned, and yeah, it's just, I don't know. I think it's pretty amazing. And that was something I really wanted to share. And, um, and listening to him and knowing that maybe his vision of God and Jesus might be different than mine, but it doesn't matter. There's still this love there. And he had a love for humanity, and I have a love for humanity, and this ability to just be compassionate and open, and that it's not about trying to make anyone believe what I believe or see the world the way I see it. It's just about, I'm willing to allow you to show up and receive you the way you are. And I'm willing to listen. And I would hope that you would have that respect for me, that I can listen to you, right? And understand that I'm not here to try to change you. I can only live by example. And if what I speak resonates and you choose to now continue your rabbit hole of, figuring things out, how beautiful is that? That is the greatest gift. If I can plant that seed, and you can plant a seed in me and make me want to like learn more, how isn't that not a beautiful exchange, right? So I wanted to share that. There was more I wanted to talk about, but I felt like maybe I would just leave it here for now as this next episode, right? My very first episode. And, but then the next episode, I do want to talk about more about my journey. And, it was amazing when I think about, having conversations with my mom, for example, and how many times it seemed like I was supposed to die, or could have came pretty damn close to it. And here I am. And then I want to talk about how there was an instance, where at that time, I didn't have the connection and the relationship with Jesus that I do now, but how grateful I am, and just like how much Jesus has constantly shown up in my life and in my sessions when I'm doing, especially when I'm doing the energy work. Jesus shows up so often, and and is there assisting me in supporting the person on my table, right? The client on my table. And how when I was a teenager and I was really deep in my depression, and uh, and it's not saying that I still don't have depression now. I still struggle with that very much now, but it shows up differently. Um, and it's still something I'm working through, right? It's still something I'm learning to heal within myself, and learning to deprogram a lot, right? So that's going to take time. And I need to be okay with that and understand that that doesn't make me any less or less valuable in the information I have to share, even if I'm still struggling with depression and other anxieties, right? But anyways, I'm going to share about that too, and about when Jesus came forward with his message when I was so low as a teenager, planning to kill myself and, planning to end my life. So that's going to be the next part of the next episode I want to talk about, and sharing more of that and my connection to Jesus and how my relationship with him has changed and grown, and that it doesn't have to be based on the religious Jesus that we see through the Catholic or the Christian faith, but that how relationships with Jesus can be so beautiful, uh, no matter what religion you choose to follow or don't follow, right? That it's still this energy to connect with and grow with. So that is all that I have for today. Surrounding you all in love. Remember that you are loved, you are seen, you are safe, and you are whole. Until our next episode, thank you again for tuning in and joining the Sacred Pearl podcast with myself, Rev.Arlene. Until next time.